Irreverent, entertaining, cool. You're listening to LA Talk Radio.
You're listening to Peace Fund Radio with Ethan Dettenmaier and Adrian Paul, right here on LA Talk Radio.
Ah, yes, and here we are again in the studio. Ethan, good morning. I haven't even spoken to you yet this morning. It's been kind of a rush in this morning, isn't it?
You said hello.
I did say hello, and you said...
No, I was. That's actually not what I said.
Oh, what did you say?
To be specific about it, I was in the middle of another crisis.
Oh, okay. Crisis averted, hopefully?
You know,
yeah, trust
as
me.
As much as can be, I guess.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I've been dealing with one thing or another. I can't seem to get a time. I just came back from Omaha, actually.
Oh, yeah? Today?
Yeah. No, yesterday. Was it yesterday? What day are we today? Wednesday.
It's Wednesday.
I don't even know what day it is.
And how was Omaha?
It was really good. It was a small con, but people were really nice, and the attendance was good. I mean, I was busy for all the weekend, so that was kind of nice. What are you smiling at? You've got half a smile on your face, which means something. You're thinking something. What is it?
I'm just listening, man.
You're just listening.
But you did say hello, so don't worry about it.
I did say hello. So nice of you. Well, did you know it's UV Safety Month?
No.
Did you know that?
No, do most people know that?
No, it's a month filled with... I mean, obviously it's hot days, summer vacations, and lots of outdoor activities.
People should know that.
Yeah, they should. I mean, there's millions of cases of skin cancer that are diagnosed every year, and only... 1 in 5 Americans will get skin cancer during their lifetime, and it's the second most diagnosed form of cancer in 15 to 29-year-olds. So those of you youngsters out there that want to go out and just bake in the sun, be aware that you can get skin cancer from it. You got to teach your kids about the importance of protecting the skin. Anyone can develop it, so be very careful. Especially, places like Australia and South Africa and that they UV. I was actually in an Uber yesterday, and I was in Ubering, and the guy goes, "Hello there, I'm from South Africa. I'm from in South Africa we have a lot of problems."
That is an embarrassing attempt at a South African.
No, South African. This is South African accent. I'll tell you that. That is a South African. And those of you that are South African, I'm terribly sorry.
The entire continent of Africa just logged off in protest of that attempt at a South African accent. You just lost half market share because of your attempt.
I just lost half the empire, did I?
Yes.
Oh dear.
Former empire.
Yeah, the English had a former empire, didn't they? Really?
They did.
Yeah. Well, what we're going to do about it? I can't really tell you anything, but
But so you're in this Uber, and the guy.
So I'm in this Uber, and the guy said to me, he said, in South Africa, I just went back because he's not been there for a long time, and he said, the sun there is so much hotter because they've lost a lot of their ozone layer. So, skin cancer is going up. It's something, people can be very careful about.
Right.
But anyway, less about that. I'm going to get on to a friend of mine that's in the studio this morning, Sean Patrick Flanery. Good morning.
Good morning. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Doing good. You've got lots of stuff. You've done. I just want to tell people what you've done because a lot of people know. But Boondock Saints, Powder, Saw 3, Final Chapter, Line of Duty, Suicide Kings, Dexter, The Young and the Restless, Dead Zone, Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. What else?
The Young and the Restless in there, in between like Saw and Dexter.
I didn't stick it in. It's all that's on there, right?
None of which was filmed in South Africa.
See another South Africa.
No, actually, that was a good one, and everyone just logged back on.
How can they log back on if they're off?
Well,
and
actually,
they didn't hear it.
North
they would have heard it. Would
told
they?
South Africa
because
the accent has gotten better. Yes.
Oh God.
So
I'm gonna get slammed this morning, aren't you? Aren't I?
No. It's all good. Go ahead. Continue.
You were born just outside of Houston, weren't you?
You know what? I was born in Lake Charles, Louisiana. Moved to Houston when I was 3. So most of my formative years were in Texas, but all my family's from Louisiana. My mom and granddaddy still lived in Lake Charles, and he was the deputy sheriff of Lake Charles, Louisiana for, up until they passed. So,
Was it a small town? Was it?
Yeah, Lake Charles is a small town when you compare it to, L.A., New York, things like that. But it's one of the. It's a sizable city for Louisiana, but New Orleans is probably the biggest city in Louisiana, which comparative sake.
I just came through Houston going to Omaha because my flight was cancelled. The United Airlines went, we've cancelled the flight literally while we're at the gate.
Yeah.
So then they transferred us from Denver to Houston and then on to Omaha. That was a 16-hour journey I had to go to get to Omaha, and I went through Houston. It was fabulous.
Brother, I know that interchange very well. I know
did.
IAH well.
But the funny thing was, I actually bought my wife something from, there was a store there. I've been through Houston a few times, and I go to the same store to buy her a present. It's one of her favourite clothing stores, so I'm not going to mention names, but anyway. You won a celebrity race at Long Beach 2 years in a row. You're a race car driver too. I didn't know that.
I won it twice. As a matter of fact, that race is really what got me into racing. I've been a race fan since I was a kid. I mean, me and my dad used to watch Formula One on, when it was 2 weeks delayed on the Wide World of Sports. But that dates it, right? But,
I remember.
Ethan remembers it. Ethan remembers it.
Not so much the Formula One, but I remember everything was delayed on Wide World of Sports.
Yeah,
it's hilarious that you referenced that.
And but racing was prohibitively expensive when I was a kid, and I mean it still is now. But being a huge fan, when they finally invited me to do a celebrity race, I open mouth gaped at the chance. So they invited me to do it. I won the first year as a celebrity, then the next year they invited me back as a pro, and happened to win that as well.
How do you go from celebrity to pro?
You know what? That's just.
I think that's an easy shift. My question is when you're lining up to start the race, who are the celebrities on your left and who's on your right? Who are you looking at when the race starts?
Let's see. You know what? Back, I don't remember. I mean, I've done so many.
Oh, it's like
since
that,
then.
huh?
I've done 30 celebrity races.
You don't remember who came in after you?
I have no idea.
Yeah, who were these people? I have no idea.
Basically, the green flag dropped. I clocked out. That's.
Was anyone else here? Was anyone even here today?
There was nothing. It went tunnel vision after that point, didn't it?
Wow.
Win.
Greatness.
But you've also done, and I just want to mention that the proceeds that you did, it was for Racing for Kids. It's a charity that puts public attention and funding to healthcare needs for children. So I know you've done some charity work in your own time, but you also you've done a lot of martial arts. We talked about that when we were over in where were we? It was 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Sacramento. Sacramento. That's it. Yeah, the Sacramento Cup. We talked about that, and you got a black belt in jiu-jitsu and from the Renzo Gracie lineage, right?
That is correct. Yeah. It became a huge part of my life. I discovered Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and I don't know, about 16 years ago, and I kind of never looked back. It was, I saw this guy putting a gi on, and I looked at the patch, and it said what pronounced to me at the time Rickson Gracie, and I asked him if he happened to know the great wonderful Hoist Gracie.
Hoist Gracie, yeah.
And he said, he's my brother. And I said, wow, my God, your brother's with the wonderful Hoist Gracie. And I told him, I said, I've always wanted to train jiu-jitsu. I've never had an opportunity. I've never found an academy or anything. And he goes, hang on a second, man. He went and got a gi, threw it at me. He goes, come on, put it up. Tonight you're going to train. And I put it on, and next thing I was an athlete. I was doing triathlons at the time. I was super competitive in sports since I was 6 years old. And I put the gi on, and when it came time for open mat, they said pick a partner, and I picked out Matt Akins, who's still a very dear friend of mine today. He's about 135 pounds soaking wet. And I didn't do that to be a bully.
You picked the smallest guy in the room. Is that what you're telling me?
No, but I wanted to know if there was truth. That everybody said there's a magic in this martial art. And I've been in martial arts since I was 9, training in everything that I could find. Uh-huh. And I picked him because I saw that he had a blue belt on, and that's the first colored belt. I knew the belt ranking system. I knew it was white, blue, purple, brown, black. I thought, okay, this guy's 135 pounds. He has a first colored belt that you ever earn. And I'm 170, fit, doing triathlons. I've been an athlete my entire life. I said, if this guy can even stalemate with me, man, I will be a believer in this martial art. Mm. And when it came time to roll, this guy choked me from every conceivable position, took my back at will, arm locked me, knee barred, toe hold, wrist, could do anything he wanted to me. This guy, honestly, could have urinated on me, and there's nothing I could have done to prevent it.
That's not a pretty sight. I don't want to see that, really.
It's a very humbling experience.
Honest,
and there's two types of people in the world. There's a type of person that says, well, in a street fight, I would have eye gouged and groin shot and done all this hokiness. And there's this type of person that says, no, you comprehensively destroyed me. What do I need to exchange to have this power over another man, should I need it? And I was in the latter category, man. I signed up for classes 2 times a week. By the third day, I changed it to unlimited, and I became addicted. I ended up spending about 5 hours a day at that academy for the next, at least, 5 years. It just it was overwhelming. The clouds opened up, and I kind of saw the truth in martial arts. And
now you've got your own studio too, don't you?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I opened it about 12 years ago, and it's a huge part of my life. I taught the kids program yesterday. Tonight at 7:30, I'll teach the adults class.
Where's the studio?
It's on La Cienega, in between Holloway and Fountain.
What's it called?
It's called Hollywood Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. The website is hollywoodbjj.com. But a lot of people ask me, like, well, but do you really teach there? And I get people that come by the academy with cameras, and they're shocked. They come in and they're like, I can't believe you're actually here. It's like, well, that's actually what I do. That's what I do. So.
I think it's a great. Did you see? I mean, obviously, you probably saw Hoist lose his match against, who was it? He lost it against.
Matt Hughes.
Back? Yeah, Matt Hughes. Yeah. I just thought there was just something wrong about that whole setup. I don't know
what was wrong about it.
Well, I thought, Hoist is. I mean, he's such a legend.
Yeah,
he's such a legend, and he came back after his prime. I think. I mean, yes. But Matt Hughes is a tough guy. I mean, they brought him in, and you could see that there was something. Either he wasn't as quick, or it was promoted that it's this great huge match and amazing. But to be honest, I think Hoist probably would have taken him 5-10 years before.
Well, here, I'll tell you, this is strictly my opinion, but this is a world that I've lived in intimately for 16 years now. And prior to that, I've been a martial artist since I was 9. Hoist Gracie was chosen to participate in the first UFC, not because he was the best in the family, quite the opposite actually, because he looked the weakest. And if he won, people would subscribe to the martial art.
Interesting.
For example, if Hickson competed, Hickson was jacked. He was a scary-looking guy. He was unquestionably the champion of the family, and everybody knew it. Everybody in jiu-jitsu circles, there's very few people in martial arts that can hold the mystique of where universally everybody says, no, I've trained with that guy, and there is no one better. In most martial arts, you'll find people that go, nah, I train with Bruce Lee, and he's not that great. There's always those people that have that. Very rarely do you uncover somebody that goes, no, I've rolled with that guy, and he is the best I've ever rolled with. Hickson was that guy. Hoist was never that guy. He never won national tournaments. He never really won big regional tournaments. They chose him because they thought, we want to promote the martial art.
Interesting.
Having said that, that was back in the day when people didn't know Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And as you know, I mean, the early UFCs were it was the proof of the pudding. If you knew it and somebody else didn't, it was the only martial art that almost guaranteed you a victory should your opponent not know it.
Yeah, right.
And, everybody says that, well, jiu-jitsu size doesn't matter. Well, that's true as long as you know it and they don't. But whenever all parties know it, absolutely size matters. Well, now, Hoist came out of retirement when he was never the best jiu-jitsu guy in the world. Far from it. And he competed against a guy now that was a Division I college All-American wrestler who was also at black belt level. There was nobody inside who thought that Hoist would ever even have a shot. Nobody. No martial artist that I knew. Everybody thought it was a joke.
Yeah, right.
He can't possibly come out and compete against Matt Hughes, who's at elite black belt level now, because Matt Hughes had been training jiu-jitsu at that point for 14 years. Every single day at Militech Fighting Systems. I mean, Hoist had been off, and he dabbled in martial arts, even in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's going to sound blasphemy to say that, but that's the truth.
No.
Nobody on the inside ever even thought he would have a chance.
No, it makes sense. Now, let's talk a little bit about charity stuff, because you've got a scholarship charity program which you established called Christmas 14. You want to tell us a little bit about that? I mean, because it's a very interesting charity you got.
Yeah, I know what martial arts did for me. I had a wonderful family. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't have wonderful families. Some people, live in a single parent household, and that's tragic. But a martial arts program, no different than my first football coach, was an additional father for me. My first track coach was an additional father for me. Most of those guys, that's the support system that kind of created me. That was my socialization process. I also know how important the martial arts were in my life, and I always realized that, should somebody come up without a father, that's where you can get that kind of guidance.
Yeah.
So
it's also discipline too that it gives you, which I found when I
it's all
of that. Yeah.
And so I decided to put something together where we go online. We sell T-shirts. That's what we do. We sell T-shirts. And I get some pretty famous artists from the comic book world to draw these concepts that I design, I put together, and they come up with a piece of artwork. We sell T-shirts. We use the proceeds to put them in a scholarship program. So the kids sign a contract. Nobody gets anything for free. For example, they've got to put in, they've got to either clean the mats a certain amount of time a week, and they've got to commit to a certain amount of attendance per week. And if they don't show up, they have a 24-hour deadline. If they're not notified their professor 24 hours in advance, they're out of the program completely. So they're held to a very, very high standard, and they've got to give something back. Although our program pays the fee, they've got to live up to it, and they've got to give something back to the academy. And I've seen it change lives dramatically. And it's something I'm very proud of. Unfortunately, I don't have the time to keep up the website. For example, we do a run of T-shirts, and then I get busy, and I don't really get to print another run for another 6 months. I think one time we went 10 months. But the last one, I did 400 shirts, and they sold out in a day. It's and I wish.
What are the T-shirts? Do they have a certain logo on them, a saying on them? What?
Yeah, you can check it out. You can go to Christmas14.com, and the 14 is numerical, so it's Christmas14.com. For example, the first one is. I think when you see the image, it'll bring back memories. You'll know where the idea for the image came from, but it's an artist rendering where I changed a couple of elements of it, and it's the typeset says "Give Life" because that's what I think it does to the students and the people that are sponsored in the program. It actually gives them a life, without which they'd be on a very, very different path. I teach the kids program, so I see it when they walk in the door. When a child walks in the door, they don't look you in the eye, they shake your hand like a wet fish. After a month, they look you in the eye, they shake your hand firm.
Yeah.
I
always think there is, whenever you give something to somebody, you can't just give it to them because then they're just taking it. I think they have to work for it. It's the same thing we have on our Helping Hands program right now. The young man who we've virtually funded, we're close to finishing the funding on that now. The idea is we want updates, we want photos, we want you to go and give us a report. So there is some sort of, you have to also not just do the work. There is a reciprocity from him so that people can see that he and his family and everybody else are actually doing the work. And it does change them because then it gives them determination, it gives them discipline, it gives them all those different types of things. So
yeah, part of our program, part of what we mandate is that they realize that they have to give a value to society. There's no other way. We erase the whole idea that fortune's going to have anything to do with their success or failure. We make all of the students understand that success leaves footprints. If you trace it back to its roots, you're going to find dedication, tenacity, drive, and an almost delusional amount of self-belief. There's no secret to it, and that's something that they get out of this program. Nothing is for free. If it's not found on the other side of adversity, it's useless.
It's interesting because we've got in our culture, in what we do, martial arts is a very big thing in the film industry. And, you're teaching, it looks like a lot of it does, it's violence. And so some people say, well, why would I put my kid into martial arts because I'm promoting violence? But I think it's different than that. Don't you think?
Look, I'm not one to shy away from a political discussion, but it is a little bit political. And I'll tell you, there's two different schools of thought. There's parents that want to avoid that fork in the road at any cost, and there's the parents that want to prepare the child for that fork in the road. But make no mistake, there will be a moment in every child's life where he will have to stand up for something that's important to him, or he will have to bend to the will of another. And I'll tell you this absolutely. If you repeatedly bend a will, that will break.
Absolutely.
It will.
It's interesting because I have two kids. I have a young daughter at 5 years old, and my son is 2.5. My son has got no problem talking to people, walking up to people, smacking other kids, and I'm like, we've got to stop him. My daughter's totally the opposite. Somebody comes up to her and says, go and do this. She was at one point, okay, and I was like, well, I want her to stand up for what she believes in and what she wants rather than just, bending like you just said, because I do believe later on that does affect who they become.
Absolutely.
And so, but there's a difference in martial arts. To me, I think the martial art teacher is very, very important because the values that they teach, the value of whether Do they in my class when I used to study? If I got into a fight outside of the martial art, I'd be kicked out of the discipline. That would be it, because that's not what the discipline is supposed to teach. It's supposed to teach you respect. It's supposed to teach you discipline. It's supposed to control and be able to defend yourself, not attack other people. So I think that's the qualities I would look for in a martial art teacher if I was putting my kids in. Because a lot of people have said to me, "What martial art should I put my kid in?" And to be honest, I said, your kid's going to learn from different people. It's like an artist. You're not going to paint with one color. You can learn jiu-jitsu, Hungar Kung Fu, karate, kempo, whatever you want, whatever works for you, then do it, because it will still teach you those disciplines.
And I would venture to say that the specific instructor is almost more important than the specific style. You're hard-pressed to find any martial art that doesn't work on some level. Granted, there's a lot of hokey stuff out there that has no combat reality whatsoever, but the instructor is a vital part of how they're going to articulate the importance, the values, the integrity, the discipline, the respect, the honor, not to mention the actual fighting element. Having said that, but the fighting aspect, if one of my students gets in a fight, he's not automatically out. If he gets in a fight for the wrong reason, he will be out.
Correct.
But there's always a time that you're going to have to maybe step up and do something. You're going to have to prevent something bad from happening. And that's the crossroad that I'm talking about. I have a couple of students that had altercations on the playground. And they're instructed exactly how to deal with that. Mm-hmm. They're instructed how to request that a behavior stops. They're instructed how to request a second time that behavior stops. They're instructed how to deal with it on a third time. And with jiu-jitsu, it's not through violence. I've had a student double-leg a student and keep him mounted until a teacher comes over there. No strikes, no nothing. But the kid on the bottom realizes, I don't have an answer for this conundrum. Yeah. I cannot extricate myself from underneath this person. And they leave there realizing that this kid on top of me, who I picked on, could have punched me the entire time. And there's nothing I could do to prevent that. And it changes the way that kid walks through life.
Do you know, it's interesting, you talk about that. Years ago, when I first started the Peace Fund, we had a program called School Makes a Difference. And I taught peer pressure. And the idea that your peers, your kids, your friends, your gang members, whatever, are going to pressure you into doing something. And I showed them a very simple thing. I said, who is stronger? The person that's doing the hitting or the person that's doing the receiving? They said, well, the guy that's doing the hitting. So what I used to do was I'd say to them, okay, hit my hand. And they'd hit the hand and I'd resist. And I said, well, I'm resisting that and I'm standing up. Okay, now hit my hand. And I'd let it go. And I'd say, push my hand, and I'd let go. And I said, who's in control now? They said, well, you are. I said, exactly. It's not the question of hitting. It's the question of being able to control the other person. It's not about aggression. And so the idea was you don't have to, which is what jiu-jitsu does, is change the flow and trap. It doesn't. You don't have to have that force to make a point or to be strong.
In my opinion, the wonderful thing about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, especially for kids, is you don't have to use an uppercut and a left hook and drop a kid on the playground. You can positionally dominate them in such a way that it's painfully crystal clear to the kid on the bottom. Wow, if he wanted to, he could punch me and open up my face if he wanted to, but he's not doing it. You put yourself in a position where you cannot escape, and the person is right on top of you, and that bully on the bottom has to wake up every morning and go, that smaller kid took me to the ground, I couldn't extricate myself from the situation, and he straddled my torso, and he waited until a parent or a teacher came out, and then he got off. That kid on the bottom, it changes who he is.
Yeah, it does actually. Let me, because we're into Protection Month right now, as we talked about, and I just want to give some facts to people because we're talking about fitness, which is something about protecting kids, protecting themselves. The number of overweight children in America has tripled in the last 3 decades. More than 30% of children ages 6 to 11 are overweight, and over 15% are obese. Average child gets less than 15 minutes of vigorous activity a day. The average child consumes at least 20 ounces of soda pop a day. Bad idea. In a typical PE class, only 27% of the time is devoted to motor activity. And by the time they reach high school, 63% of children are no longer physically active. And according to the CDC, 11% of American children ages 4 to 17 have been diagnosed with ADHD. That's 6.4 million children. It's an increase of 42% in just 8 years. Well, I mean, these numbers are staggering to me. And I think doing things we had Kevin Sorbo in a year ago. He has a program called Fit for Kids, taking after-school programs for children to increase their fitness, their diet, etc. And I think martial arts is another thing that can help that type of situation. I mean, I think kids do need that physical activity.
Absolutely, kids need a physical activity. I mean, they need to. It's a culture, unfortunately. It's a culture in the United States, and I'll give you an example. One of the reasons that we have such advances in cancer is because we talk about it. It's okay. It's politically acceptable to say, "Whoa, cancer kills," but you can't discuss anything using the word "fat" amongst kids. You can't. You can't say that.
Yeah, that's true.
You can speak on the radio right now generally saying obesity is a problem. But if you see a kid, even in my martial arts program, if I see a kid that comes in that's grossly overweight, if I take aside and I talk to the parent, that's offensive. Unfortunately, it is. But it's just the reality. That conversation needs to be had. And being overweight is a mathematical equation. You know, right now there's a current era of thought that's, oh, well, I have a thyroid problem, or I have this. It is a physical impossibility to gain weight when you burn more calories than you take in. Just like it's an impossibility to gain interest when you have a zero bank account level.
Right.
That's just the math behind it. And until we address this problem, we discuss it like adults, it's not going to be rectified.
You know, the other thing we've talked about this before is the fact of when kids are on ADHD, the numbers are staggering as to what the treatment, let's say treatment of this is. 61% of American children, 6.1%, not 61, 6.1%, they're being treated by ADHD by giving them Adderall or Ritalin. You're giving a drug to a kid, and we've talked about it before. The schooling system in the United States is different than where it is in Norway or Sweden. What they deal with, they give kids physical activity in longer breaks. Instead of us having a 10-minute recess or a 15-minute recess in schools, they give a 45-minute recess 2 times a day. And what that does, it gives that kid that physical outlet, which we don't give our kids. And what do? Oh, that kid's got ADHD, which is not necessarily true. They need a physical they need some outlet for that physicality that's in them, for that energy that's in them, and we don't give it. So after-school programs or martial art programs that you're talking about, I think are extremely important for the children that we have.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, I can tell by the way that you're speaking that we probably sit on the same side of the fence this, but I'll go ahead and say it. I think 90% of ADHD diagnoses are absolute crap. I'll give you an example. Have you ever seen a hyperactive dog that lived on a farm? Never. You've never seen that. Because
it's a great analogy, that, actually.
Now, how many hyperactive dogs have you seen that live in Manhattan in a 300-square-foot apartment?
Yeah, that's true.
All of them. Every single one of them. You know why I wasn't diagnosed? Because I was on my first football team when I was 6 years old. I was on 2 teams a year. I ran track. I was on a swim team. I came home exhausted. And you know what the best thing for mental relaxation is? Physical exhaustion. Where the body goes, the mind will follow, and vice versa. But if you don't follow that protocol, absolutely. A kid is a child. They've got so much energy. If you don't find an outlet to release that, you're in a world of problem. But if you medicate that, I mean, you're talking about a child being a child. So to bludgeon their consciousness with medication because they have physical energy that doesn't have an outlet to be dispensed, my God, that's just a travesty.
You know, it's interesting because my son is like that. I mean, he's all over the shop. I mean, he's running and jumping and kicking. If I keep him indoors, it will be a nightmare. He has to get out and kick the ball or jump in the pool or run around the park or climb or whatever that is. And parents then go, oh, he's a problem. Well, it's not a problem. It's a kid's energy, especially boys. Girls are slightly different. Not all. I would be generalizing saying that. But in reality, boys have so much more energy. And I watched a show last night called Chris Lee Knows Best, and it's a very funny...
it's hysterical. I've seen it.
Have you seen it? It's hysterical. I love it. And they have the two younger kids who are 17, 18 years old. They were looking after the adopted daughter who's 2. And they were like, you're doing this, you're being so bad, and I'm looking at them going, no, she's being a kid. she's being exactly what she should be. She's being exploratory. She's being loud. She's trying stuff on. She's throwing things. She's running in the water. But that's what kids do, and most people don't understand that.
Unfortunately, I think they do understand that. I think that they want an excuse for making the wrong decisions in life. But I have never, myself specifically, I've never met a child that's been diagnosed with ADHD that has an adequate amount of physicality in their life. I've never met that person. And I run a martial arts kids class. I see parents come in all the time. Every one of them, whenever you trace it back to the roots, you realize, wow, this kid never gets outside. They have no physical activity at all. Of course you're going to take them to the doctor and say they have pin-up energy. It's mindless.
Exactly, yeah, I know.
It makes sense.
I know.
Even lower primates would understand this, much less adults that were raised properly. A kid with no physical outlet is going to be climbing the walls. And you don't bludgeon their consciousness with medication. You find a playground. And it makes me angry at this because I see it every single day. And the kid has no hope. They don't have a hope in hell. Whenever the parent goes, wow, this kid's climbing the walls. He has no physical exhaustion, so let me get him on medication. That's a dead-end street.
Or
man.
they give him an iPad.
Yeah, that's
which is
dead-end
another
street.
All right, let me bring in. Every week we have a Kid Hero of the Week. I've got John Beerley waiting in the wings. Do we have John there? Are you there, John?
Yes, good morning, Adrian. Good morning, Ethan. And Sean, welcome to Peace Fun Radio. We are thrilled to have you on.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
Been a big fan of your work since the Indiana Jones Chronicles.
Yeah,
I mean, what a gig. I mean, you get to act and have a history lesson every week. That's fantastic.
I appreciate it, man.
So, John, you've got a Hero of the Week for us this week. Or any updates? What have you got for us?
I do. Let's go ahead and start with our Hero of the Week. One of the things that is really good about martial arts and kids is that it teaches self-esteem and confidence. And the young lady that we're going to bring on to the show today knows a lot about confidence. We mentioned her on the show before, but this is the first time we've actually been able to bring her on and talk to her on the air. We're going to catch up with Sanah Jivani. When she was 12 years old, she lost her hair to alopecia areata and became the target of merciless bullying at school, including a letter that was left in her locker outlining 50 ways that she should kill herself, all for the crime of having been diagnosed with a legitimate medical condition. But rather than retreating, Sanah decided that she was going to go in a different direction. She took off her wig and decided to embrace everything about who and how she was, inspiring countless other students to do the same via her own holiday called International Natural Day. She's going to be joining us by phone today with some updates. And I believe, Ethan, can we get her on, or do I need to have her call in?
Yeah, I just actually sent you a text, John, verifying the number.
Okay, very good.
It didn't go through. Is that the correct number?
We have technical issues sometimes.
Live radios, ladies and gentlemen. Hold on just a quick second.
No,
yeah, I'm going to drop it in right now.
It's a human issue.
Well, this is a human. Well, it depends on the 712, 713 maybe issue.
I just want to verify because
hold on just a quick.
In the meantime, I'll tell you something wonderful about what she decided to do. I don't know if you guys remember. Every time a controversy comes out in TMZ or the news, there's only one person that I remember that shut it down immediately. What was Elizabeth Hurley's boyfriend's name at the time?
Yes,
Hugh Grant.
Hugh
Grant. He was caught picking up a prostitute or whatever, and he went on the Jay Leno show, and he goes, "You know what, Jay? Sometimes in life you do a good thing, and sometimes you do a bad thing. I did a bad thing." As soon as he just fessed up and admitted it and stared it in the eye, the world just sat down and said, okay, well, I guess nothing else to see here. Move on. So what else have you been up to, Hugh? As long as you try and hide from these things and you don't that's a horrible thing. That's a horrible thing that she had to endure. But taking off the wig and go, here it is. There's nothing really to say anymore.
Yeah.
Exactly. And two, there were so many other kids who came out of the woodwork when she did that, who were going through their own struggles with other various issues, who said, wow, you gave me the courage and the strength that I needed to step up and say that I'm okay too.
Okay,
and
I think we've got it here, John. So let's just get on. Is it Sanah? Hello, is this Sanah Jivani?
Yes.
Hello, good morning. This is Adrian Paul, Ethan Dettenmaier, John Beerley, and Sean Patrick Flanery at Peace Fun Radio. How are you this morning?
Good. How are you?
Good. Where are you? Where are you in the country at the moment?
Spring, Texas.
Spring, Texas. Well, I actually have a Texas native here at the moment.
Yeah. Hey, my name is Sean. I'm a Texan myself. Good to meet you.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
How old are you? Am I pronouncing it right? Sanah.
Sanah.
Sanah. Okay, because everybody. I want to make sure I'm calling you right. Okay. So, how old are you, Sanah?
I'm 17 years old.
17. Okay, so John's been outlining some of the things. How did people react to you when you stopped wearing your wig to school?
You know, it's crazy. I expected people to be extremely shocked. Like, I expected the world to stop moving and everyone to stare and whisper. But then I realized that, you know, when you have confidence in yourself, you know, the rest of it's kind of all in your head. It's just about taking that initial step of courage. And my peers actually had a really positive reaction. They were also loving, caring, and supportive. And the best part is that a lot of them came up to me and told me, you know, that my journey inspired them in some way. And, you know, at that point I realized, like, I had no idea that my story carried so much power, and I realized there's a lot more that I can do with this. So
now, tell us a little bit about International Natural Day. It happens every year
so
on February
basically,
13th.
International Natural Day is a day dedicated to letting go of insecurities. So on that day, I challenge everybody to let go of the one thing that holds them back. So.
And how did it go for you this year?
It honestly went so amazing. You know, we had people from all around the world sharing their story and opening up, and it was really cool. One story in particular that really touched me was, you know, there was someone who made a post on social media about an abusive relationship they were in. And they said that since Natural Day is all about letting go of the one thing that holds you back, they chose to open up and break free from that relationship. So it was amazing to me to see how many people interpreted Natural Day in so many different ways and, you know, really took the idea and ran with it.
How many countries has this expanded to now?
It's expanded to 28 countries around the world, which is really, really exciting for me. And it's just so cool to see that it's become like really a global movement, like I've always dreamed.
And you're saying it's global, right? So everybody has their different way of celebrating these things. How do they celebrate it in different countries? Have you heard of?
Right. So, you know, a couple that come to mind are, I know that India holds like festivals of colors throughout the year, and so they have a lot of emphasis on that. So I've seen a lot of people, you know, in India pick colors to represent themselves and open up in that way. So that was really cool. Really cool. And then an all-girls school in Nepal actually celebrated this year, and a lot of the girls were really young. So instead of focusing on what insecurities to let go of, they focused on their strengths and made dream charts. And they talked about, you know, all the great things that they want to do someday, starting with finishing their education in Nepal. So it was cool to see Natural Day from a different perspective. And it was also amazing to see how young children from across the world have kind of the same dreams we do. So.
Now, you do presentations, I hear. And how many do you do a year? What type of venues, and what does the presentation entail?
So I try to do as many presentations as possible. So if someone asks me to do a presentation, I'll usually be, you know, pretty open to it and pretty on top of it. I've done everything from huge venues filled with thousands of guests to small local meetings with, you know, 10 to 12 individuals. I'm open to anything, and I always just say, like, it doesn't matter how many people are there. It just matters that I leave at least touching one, or, you know, sharing my story and hopefully getting through to at least one individual. So that's what I hope for every time I go and do a presentation, and I'm lucky that I've gotten to do several. So.
Hey, this is Sean here, and I'm pretty blown away by your story as well. But tell me this: like, how did this change the direction in your life? Seeing how something that you did affected so many lives, and what did you want to do with your life before this, and what do you want to do with your life now? Where do you see the future taking you?
Well, honestly, before this, I was a completely different person. I kind of wanted to just, you know, get a easy job, you know, work in an office, just, you know, kind of go like a very typical direction. I honestly didn't even know what I wanted to be when I grew up. I would ask my siblings, okay, like, what's the easy way to get a job, or what should I major in college? But this has just taught me so much about myself and given me so many ambitions of my own. So if I, you know, could continue with this work, I would love to, and I always will do everything I can to keep this movement going. And so I want to major in psychology now, and hopefully travel the world and you know, tell people my story and really relate to them on a new level, and just continue spreading this movement the best I can. So.
Well, you've affected a lot of lives out there, and I hope you realize that it takes one person to make one decision in the right way, and let the world be a witness to that, and it affects everybody else. I'm ecstatic for you. I love this story.
We were talking earlier on about everybody has crossroads or forks in life to choose which path they're going to go on. And a lot of the time when, you are able to stand up or make a choice, it really affects which path you're going on. And obviously you made a choice back then, and it's now taking you on a totally different path than what you'd originally thought you were going to go on.
Right, for sure. And I think that was one of the most important choices I've ever made in my life. I was at rock bottom, and there were two ways I could go. I could keep letting myself spiral out of control and, continue to feel miserable about myself, or I could change something. And I think, when something's, really, really, going on and you feel like you're at rock bottom, you have the option to change something in your life. Like, they always say that if you look around in your life and you don't like something around it, you have the power to change it. And I just love that power. And Natural Day is all about encouraging people to use that power and let go.
Let me ask you a really defining question here. When did you decide, and how did you decide to change that? So you said you hit rock bottom. So what was it that made you sort of go, no, this is not right, I'm going to take it by the horns? How did you do that?
Right. So, I always describe the day as I hit rock bottom as the day I started, doing really bad in school. And I remember a day in particular that we got a letter that said, I would have to repeat the 8th grade, which was so weird for me because I love learning and I love school, and I was straight A student. And so, I opened up that letter. And I remember I was with my parents, and my parents were really disappointed. But then I just started crying and crying for a really long time. And I was like, "We've got to do something. We've got to figure something out. I don't know what to do. I don't want to go to school anymore. I don't even want to wake up anymore. I don't know." And I started feeling like this. And that day was a really big relief. So after that day, I started taking steps to letting go. And so I would occasionally go without my wig at a friend's house, or do it slowly. But then my freshman year was about to start, and I was like, you know what, I got to take this big, bold step of courage and let go of the wig for sure, because I don't want it to be a crutch anymore. So, and it really was one of the best choices I ever made.
Well, thank you for coming on the show this morning, and congratulations on everything that you're doing. Please continue doing it, because I agree with you. Even one person that you affect changes a lot of different lives, and you have no idea what that ripple effect will continue to be, because you don't know who they touch. So congratulations, please continue doing it, and you're our Peace Fund Hero of the Week.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
You're so welcome. Hopefully we'll talk to you again.
Bye-bye. God bless.
Thank you.
It's interesting. I always get kind of, when I hear, because we have a hero every week, there's a child every week that has done something like this. And to me, it's so inspiring for me to hear, because kids don't know what no is. When they're 10, 11, 12 years old, they haven't been smacked with life yet. And it's so inspiring every time I come out of here going, wow, I can't believe we talked to that person today, and they were that. Now, to me, it kind of allows me to go out and for the rest of my week and go, yeah, I can do something different too. I can handle things in a slightly different way.
Yeah, it's wonderful to see that kind of change, but it also gives you a big picture of where society is right now. Because make no mistake, in 15 years, she's going to look back at that and go, I can't believe that was potentially a catastrophic moment in my life.
And she turned it around to something different.
She turned it around to something different. But whenever you look
and
back,
turned around so many other people who were inspired by her as well, which is the best part of it.
Yeah, but I couldn't agree more. But the fact that level of ridicule could be catastrophic in a child's life, that's horrific to me. And it's wonderful that she grabbed herself by the bootstraps. But in 20 years, she's going to look back at that and go, when I list up all of my adversities in my life, that's going to be one of the smallest for her.
Yeah, right. It's true.
Right. It's going to make her. It's going to give her a crusty outer shell that's going to make her impenetrable. And she did it to herself. She decided to start doing what's right and necessary, as opposed to what's pleasant.
Well, the interesting thing is, I think also the fact that she decided to go that way with it. She could have gone the other way. She could have said, I can't do this. I'm giving up. I'm not doing anything. And so many kids have that because they don't have the support, they don't have the parents to do it. So it's so important. And we talk about martial arts. If they're in a program, they might have that ability to have that discipline to say, no, I'm not going to give in. I'm not going to give up. I mean, so many times in life, As we get older, it's harder to get back up when somebody's knocked you down. It's the fact. But if you've got that discipline and that strength in you from before, eventually it will kick back in for you to say, no, I'm going to succeed, I'm going to do this, and nobody can stop me.
Well, and I'll tell you why, because I see it every day, and I know that you have too. Because pain is a necessary element of life. And when you raise a child and he has no idea of pain until he's 15 years old, and he gets rejection for the first time in his life, he's going to be sat down. But if he's had to climb over obstacles for every one of his achievements and he's experienced pain, then it's not a shock to the system. Inevitably, a kid, I'm from Texas, there was a fight on the football field or every week.
I'm from London. I'm from London, dude.
There you go.
I was fighting every week when I was a kid, 14 years old.
There's one of those. But, so many kids, in our martial arts program, I meet kids all the time that have never been punched in the face. And inevitably, that's going to happen at some time. So if you don't do it in a controlled environment, and I'm speaking metaphorically, it doesn't have to be a punch in the face, but the metaphor for getting punched in the face, if you haven't experienced that, it's going to be devastating. Devastating. And it's just a shame to think that some negative comments on social media can almost bring a child to give up.
Yeah.
That's horrible in life. There's got to be some strength injected somewhere that goes, wow, I'm going to let that, maybe it doesn't roll off my shoulder, but I'm going to deflect it in a certain way. And I'm not going to say it doesn't cause pain, but it's not going to sit them down and incite, maybe I'm going to retire from this program altogether. It's got to make them go, yeah, that's going to hurt a little bit, but I'm going to get around this. And God bless her for doing that.
Yeah. John, can you bring us any more updates? Because we're getting close to finishing the show again. Time has flown by. What
it always does. It always does. I'd like to urge all of our listeners to check out Sanah's website at internationalnaturalday.com for information about all of the different programs and resources that she has for kids. Our guest today, Sean Flanery, at seanflanery.com, where you can find links to all of his other social media presences. ThePeaceFund.org is where you can go to find all of the information for everything that the Peace Fund is up to, including our closing up of our fundraiser for Jordan, who Adrian talked about earlier in the show. We're almost done helping him, and we'll have a new helping hand for you very soon. And we're also working with the David Frey Memorial Golf Tournament, davidfreymemorial.com, David, F-R-E-Y, memorial.com. Their golf tournament is coming up on August 10th to help a young man who needs a bowel transplant. He's 6 years old. His name is Alexander. He had necrotizing enterocolitis as a young boy. He had to have his colon, most of his small intestine removed. So we were helping him with some help from the Children's Organ Transplant Association to get a life-saving transplant operation. So go to davidfreymemorial.com for more information about that.
Now, I do want to also urge everybody that, although we are closing on Jordan, we will have another young lady very soon that will be dealing with our Helping Hands program to help her battle some issues in her life. And, the fact is we can't do it without you. So please go to www.thepeacefund.org. Now, you've got a book coming out, and you've got a blog, Shine Until Tomorrow, I understand. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it kind of follows on a lot of the themes that we were discussing earlier. It's about life, it's about health, it's about longevity, it's about it's about all the principles that I found valuable in my life. And I started this blog, and it kind of took on a life of its own. Again, it's called ShineUntilTomorrow.com. And just on the strength of that, I put pen to paper and I wrote my first novel, and I hope to have it out by Christmas time.
Awesome.
I'm gonna give for the people that sign up on the blog just for updates. They'll have first access to the book, but it's called Jane 2 and
Jane 2.
Jane 2.
Where will people be able to find it?
Everywhere. Hopefully it'll be out by Christmas. I look forward to that. But if they sign up on the blog, they'll have first access to it, and it's been the last 2 years of my life. Writing. It's been a big learning process for me, and it's been a lot of, without sounding hokey, a lot of self-discovery kind of stuff.
I think you do when you put things on paper. I mean, I've been in the procrastination stage for about a year to do a book, and I keep going. But every time I start thinking of things, it goes, oh wow, I did that, and there was that, and it really does kind of make you go, oh my gosh, I can talk about this and that, and I've forgotten about that until you really sit down and put pen to paper to actually make it happen. So
yeah, very therapeutic as well.
where's your blog? It's just Shine Until Tomorrow, correct?
Yep, shineuntiltomorrow.com, and it kind of took on a life of its own. You know, I started, just to put a little message, I started for the Martial Arts Academy, talking about health and longevity and kids and the things that were valuable in my life. And then I started telling stories about my granddaddy, who was one of the most important figures in my life. Like, my dad and my granddaddy taught me everything. They're you know, no man is an island. It's no man is really self-created. We're all a product of our socialization process, our peers, our family, and everything else. And I started to put down some stories that, you know, they relayed to me. And for whatever reason, they really resonated with the public out there. So I decided to take it a step further and put pen to paper and put a lot in a book form. So that's how it all happened.
Well, Sean, thank you for coming in this morning, because you know, we've talked a little bit over the times we've met in cons and stuff, and I really appreciate what you do. And I think you know, the martial art thing, I'm actually going to be you know, it gives me ideas when I talk to people about it, because you know, it's for your own thing. And what I'm hoping is that people get that here, is they get sparked into going, you know what, I should possibly do that. And it gave me a thought process, because I was thinking to myself, which martial art should I put my kid in? My son might be one way, but my daughter's a different one. And I think, you know, jiu-jitsu, which is something really interesting, I think it's a girl can do as well, because it's redirection of energy in that respect. So it's something I might even look into later on for her.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Listen, Ethan, thank you this morning for getting us the show. John Beerley, thanks, my friend, for bringing us the piece.
My honor, as always.
And obviously, all of you out there who listen, keep listening. And Beverly Shahara, a shout out goes to Carmel McPherson, who's just recently lost her mom. Carmel, our heart goes out to you, and I know you're strong, and you have all the support of the Peace Fund and all the people that love you. So this is Adrian Paul, and a closing quote from James A. Baldwin. Children have never been very good at listening to their elders, but they have never failed to imitate them. This is Adrian Paul and Ethan Dettenmaier. We'll see you next week.
You're listening to Peace Fund Radio with Ethan Dettenmaier and Adrian Paul, right here on LA Talk Radio.